Good evening. I am a PhD student at Tallinn University, and this work is a joint work with my supervisor, Allampur. This work is a follow-up to a recently published study in European Journal of Population, where we looked at the whole population, but the present study looks at the heterogeneity of the effects of parental leave reform, which took place in 2004 in Estonia on transition to second and third births. To start with the brief, the reference to previous studies, there are relatively few studies that have looked at the changes in childbearing behavior of subgroups in response to parental leave reforms. And I will not go to all details to fit in time. Probably the most truly studied is the German reform that took place in 2007, where the reform replaced the means tested scheme with the earnings-related one, and the duration of paid months was shortened. Several studies found that the effects of policy on fertility was in line with the incentives of the reform, namely positive effects found for highly educated and negative effects for low educated, for whom the duration of paid months was almost halved. The next three studies also looked at the reform's effects on fertility and also found heterogeneous effects in Germany, Austria, and US. Either by education or income background, and by contrast, however, only in Sweden researchers found homogeneous responses to the extension of eligibility period of automatic renewal of benefits, like it's also called speed premium often in the literature, and they found that all educational groups responded in a very similar way to this reform. And the studies looked at the ethnic differences are even rare. The same Swedish study found that native-born women and women from other northern countries accelerated the transition to next birth, but no change or no reaction observed among immigrants from non-Nordic countries to this reform. And in US, also heterogeneous effects found, where only white women, the probability of next birth was increased among only highly educated women, white women. Sorry. 2004 parental leave reform that took place in Estonia replaced low flat rate benefit with earning-related one. The new provisions included generous benefits that amounts to full salary that was earned prior to childbirth, and also a maximum amount of benefits was set at 3 times of the average salaries. Also, the duration of paid months was quite long, and it was 18 months from 2008 further. And the reform also included speed premium feature, which so that parents who spaced their births close enough in less than 30 months could retain the same level of benefits for the next birth if they and without returning to labor market. And in a recently published study, we found that the timing of the next birth was accelerated, basically from first to second and second to third birth, and also we found that there was an increase in parity progression for both second and third births. To go to research question and hypothesis, we are in this study interested how changes in childbearing behavior associated with 2004 parental leave reform across educational and ethnic groups. We pose for a hypothesis. First is about the timing educational groups where we expect that the shortening of birth intervals would be the largest among highly educated, and second, in terms of quantity, we expect that the progression to next birth would be also observed among highly educated, as the full compensation of the salary would bring the largest decrease in opportunity costs among the highly educated. In terms of, and our third and fourth hypotheses are about ethnic differences, where we expect both tempo and quantum responses to be stronger among Estonian women, as they had slightly higher, stronger labor attachment level and slightly higher earnings. So it would also translate into a larger decrease in opportunity costs. As data, we use individual level register-based data set provided by Statistical Office of Estonia. And our data set covers women born between 1960 to 1999 and who had their first or second child between 1993 and 2014. And they were followed until the end of 2020. And we look at, again, transition from first to second and second to third child. And we also exclude women with multiple births and who are circular migrants from our analysis. As methods, we use both descriptive and multivariate analysis. As descriptive methods, we use duration-specific birth rates and Kaplan-Meier estimates. And as a multivariate method, we use a mixture core modeling, which is extension of conventional survival models that consist of two submodels, incidence and duration submodel, and these models are simultaneously estimated and have a same sort of set of covariates. Incidence submodel estimates the effects of covariates on the propensity of having a next child, and duration estimates the timing of the next birth. And we also include a range of control variables such as individual level and microeconomic controls. Our main explanatory variable interacts time period before and after reform with either education or ethnicity variables, and for educational groups we have 6 categories, and for models for ethnic groups we have 4 categories. Coming to results, I will only, in terms of descriptive results, I will only introduce the results for second birth to save time. But I can say that the results we found for third birth are more or less similar what we observed for second birth, but the differences are less pronounced, or the patterns, let's say. And in this slide, I present duration-specific second birth rates for educational groups, 3 levels of education, high, medium, and low. And we can see that until 2003 birth cohort, the lines of 2 durations are almost parallel, and starting from 2003 first birth cohort, which already is affected by the reform, the duration rates under 30 months starts to increase. This, which is the eligibility period for speed premium feature. So we see that there is an acceleration to second birth, but we don't see any change for slightly longer duration of 31st to 36 months. But in this study, we are we are interested on the group differences, but not mainly policy effects, only policy effects. So the difference between 2002 cohort, which is the last cohort that is not affected by the reform, and 2009 cohort, there is the increase in second birth rates under 30 months is almost doubled among the highly educated on the top, and slightly lower among medium educated, and we don't see a response among low educated to the reform. And for ethnic groups, we see also similar changes in both for Estonians and other ethnic groups, but closer, if you look closer, we see that there was already increase beforehand, and in the whole range, we see that for other ethnic groups, there was already an increase, which could be, shows that there might be some also additional factors in play. That's why we cannot fully relate to policy reform. And this slide I present inverted Kaplan-Meier estimates for, again, different educational groups. And this, we use this to get insight into quantum effects rather than tempo. And here, we focus on critical durations that each cohort gets exposed to the reform. We present a number of selected cohorts for a better visibility, and first let's focus on 1996 and 2000 cohort, and until fourth, fifth year we see that they almost have the same level of progression to second birth, and starting from that year 2000 first birth cohort shows, or starts to show higher progression, where it gets exposed to the reform after 4 years. And we see that this divergence is increasing and reached its highest point where 1996 cohort also gets exposed to reform. And when we look at the 2004 cohort, which is exposed to reform from the very beginning, and we see that there was already higher progression compared to earlier cohorts from the very beginning. And we see after following 15 years, we see 15% higher progression compared to 1996 cohort. We see similar trends for also medium-educated, but the increase in progression between cohorts are smaller compared to high-educated, and we don't observe similar patterns for low-educated. Similarly, for ethnic differences, we observe a similar trend as we observed for medium and high-educated in previous slide, and there is a 4% higher progression after 15 years, and that these cohorts are followed. And interestingly, we see quite higher progression among women from other ethnic groups. And however, as we saw in duration-specific rates, when we look closer, we see that there was already a higher increase in 2000 cohort before they were already exposed to the reform. So we can, again, it shows that there are some other factors in play for ethnic groups. Coming to results from multivariate analysis. 2 minutes, okay. On the left-hand side, we have the results from incidence submodel, and on the right-hand side from duration submodel. And our reference group is medium-educated before reform, and these are odds ratios. But since we are interested in differences between groups, we look between each group the differences in percentage points, and we see the highest increase among highly educated. But interestingly, we also observe increase in odds ratio among low educated women as well. And in duration submodel, these coefficients show the multiplicative estimates of shortening or lengthening of the birth interval. And if the difference is negative, it means there is a shortening of birth intervals. And we observe that there is a highest, the largest response in shortening the next birth is among highly educated, and interestingly, we observed that there is a lengthening effect for low-educated. But for third birth, we also largely observe similar results. similar differences, but except for low-educated, where we don't see significant effect of the reform. For ethnic different groups as well, we have the same analysis, and we see that Estonians had a larger response to the reform and showed even higher increase in incidence model for both births. But in shortening, we see that in second births, other women from other ethnic groups showed a larger response. To summarize, as we expected, we see stronger acceleration among highly educated by both descriptive and multivariate findings. But by contrast, we also observe that the birth interval was lengthened among low-educated, especially for second birth, which we think that women delayed the next birth to be able to get a stronger foothold in the labor market and higher earnings in order to benefit more from the new parental leave scheme. And in terms of the second hypothesis, we see we confirmed that there was a larger increase in fertility quantum among highly educated, which suggests that greatest decrease in opportunity costs and reconciliation of family and work life also translate into larger responses to the reform. And low-educated also showed an increase in progression to second birth, especially, which suggests an income effect. And we partly confirmed the third hypothesis, which was acceleration among Estonian women. We see that other women showed even higher acceleration, stronger acceleration to next birth. And in terms of the last hypothesis, we also confirmed the largest increase in fertility quantum among Estonian women, which shows that they had their stronger labor attachment and higher earnings translate also the larger decrease in opportunity costs. Okay, thank you for listening. Sorry for being over time.